Hello, my lovely people. This is me again, Mary T. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making skirt and blouse, peplum blouse with skirt. So I'll be cutting the skirt first before the peplum. So the length of the skirt I'll be cutting is 40 inches, 39 inches, sorry. Then I'll be adding 2 inches for sewing allowance, 1 inch for hemming, and 1 inch for sewing allowance. That will give me 41 inches. Guys, if you are new to my channel, you are highly welcome. Please subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. The subscription is free of charge. So guys, I'll be marking out the length of the skirt, which is 41. So after marking the length of the skirt, the next thing I will mark is the hip line. So from the waist to hip is 9 inches. I'll be using 9 inches. So the waist measurement is 34 divided by 4 will give me 8.5 plus 2 inches sewing allowance, that is 10.5 plus 1 inch for that. That will give me 11.5. So the hip measurement is 40 divided by 2. 40 divided by 4 will give me 10 plus 2 inches sewing allowance, that is 12. Then since I marked 12 on the hip, I'll minus 2 inches and mark 10 from the down part. So after marking the lines, the next thing I have to do now is to connect the lines using my ruler to connect the lines. Then after connecting a straight line, I'll connect from waist to the hip. So this is what I have for the skirt marking. I'll be cutting it all out. It's very simple and easy. It looks like my shock is not showing very well, but I'll be cutting out for you to see what I marked. So after cutting out the front part, all I have to do now is to trace out the back, adding my zipper allowance. Okay guys, looking at what I have here, I've already cut out the back with my zipper allowance. As you can see, I cut out the front and the back now with my zipper allowance. So the next thing I have to do now is to cut out the peplum top. This is the skirt. So I will insert my dart 4 inches. The 4 inches will be the width, while the length is 6 inches for the dart. But I will show you that while sewing it. Right now, I will be cutting out the peplum blouse on it, and it will be a buster peplum blouse. So guys, like I said before, I said I folded the fabric into 2. This is 1, 2, and I fold again, making it 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'll fold again, making it 8. So looking at the peplum blouse I'm cutting, you will see that it has a printing flare is flare, but it's printed. So I need to cut this flare excess in order to be able to print it as it was on the picture. So I'll be cutting this flare by 16, as in I'll be cutting two flare with the same waist measurement. As I fold this one now, I'll cut it. After cutting it, I'll cut another flare with the same waist measurement. So the waist of the person is 34 divided by 8. 34 divided by 8 will give me 4.4 and quarter, 4 inches and quarter. So I'll be looking for what I'll use to get 4 and quarter. So I'll be marking out 3 inches. I'll measure 3 inches all round to know that if I measure that 3 inches, if it will be able to give me 4 and quarter. So I just mark out 3 inches and I'll measure it. And I realize that I have more than 4 and quarter. I will reduce it. So I will now measure 2.5. I mark 2.5, and I have exactly 4 and quarter. So the length of the top which I'm working on, the peplum blouse, is 23. 23, the half length is 16. I'll have, looking at it, 23, and the half length is 16. So 23 minus 16, I will have 7 less, plus 1 sewing allowance. That will give me 8. So I'll mark 8 all round. So after marking 8 all round, I'll be cutting it out. After cutting this one out, I'll use it to trace out another flare. So guys, I've cut out this flare. I hope you understand what I explained. I said the waist of the person, first of all, the blouse length is 23. The half length is 16. 23 minus 16, I will have 7 left. And I'll be adding 1 inch for sewing allowance. That will give me 8. So 8 inches will be the length of the flare. And the waist measurement is 34. So I will divide the 34 by 8 because the flare which I'm cutting is 8 pieces, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I will divide the 34 by 8, and I'll have 4 inches and quarter. So I will be getting a number that I will use to find quarter. I first of all mark 3 inches all round, and I measure it. I realize I have more than 4 and quarter. So I now reduce it to 2.5, and I measure 2.5 all round, and I was able to have 4 and quarter as I want. So from that 2.5 inches which I marked, from there I measure 8 inches all round. That gives me this flare. So because the blouse I'm cutting has printing, is a round flare with full printing, I'll be cutting extra 2 of this flare in order to be able to have that full flare if I finish sewing the blouse. So right now I will proceed by cutting the remaining 2 flare that I needed to complete this 3. So I'll proceed. Okay guys, to cut the half length of this peplum blouse that I told you I'm cutting, I've already marked out the half length, which is the half length is 16. plus 1 inch sewing allowance, that is 17 inches. So I've marked out 17 inches. I hope you see that, 17 inches. So after marking the half length, I mark shoulder line, which is 8 inches. This is the upper bust line. Yes, the upper bust line. Then this is 9 inches, the bust point, and here is the under bust, which is 12 and half. So guys, after marking that, the next thing now is to mark the nipples to nipples measurement, which is nipples to nipples measurement is 7.5 plus 7 inches, sorry, plus 1 inch for sewing allowance, that will be 8 inches. Divided by 2 will give me 4. So I'll mark the 4 inches. After marking the 4 inches, I'll connect the lines. I'll connect the lines. After connecting the line, the next thing, I'll mark 1 inch to the both sides for the dart, from the under bust down to the half length. That is where I'm marking the 1 inch. After marking the 1 inch, I will connect the lines. I've also connected the lines for the dart. So the next thing I have to do now is to connect this dart down to connect the dart down up to bust point. So I'm connecting with a ruler. If you have French curve, you can use that one. So after connecting the dart, the next thing now is to get where my chest line will start, where I want my buster to start. I don't want it to go down, so I'll mark 5.5 inches. That is where I want my buster to start, my chest line. So after marking the 5.5, I will rule a straight line. Then after marking the line, the next thing I extend this 4 inches for my dart. I will extend it to this chest line. Then I'll connect it back. After connecting it back, the next thing, I'll mark 1 inch for the dart to the upper side, and 1 inch for that to the both right and left. So after marking 1 inch to the both right and left, I'll connect it down to the bust point. And I'll connect the other one. So after connecting it, I will now carve it, because I don't want it to have a sharp edge like that. So I will use my hand to carve it, to take out the sharp edge. As you can see. So the next thing I have to do now is to mark the shoulder slope. I'll use 1/2 inch for the shoulder slope, and I'll slope it down to the so I'll mark it. That's my shoulder slope. The next thing is to mark the armhole. I'll divide the armhole by 2. I have 7.5 here. Divided by 2 will give me 3.25. 3.25. So from that 3.25, I'll come in by 1/2 inch. The reason for this 1/2 inch is because front armhole needs to go in than the back armhole. So after that, I'll mark 1.5 inch in order to enable me to curve my armhole. So I'll first carve the back armhole, then after that I'll now connect the front armhole. I'll connect it back to the armhole we have. I hope you are seeing what I'm doing. This is the front armhole, and here is the back armhole. So after marking the armhole, the next thing I have to do now is to insert the bust measurement, which is 38 divided by 4 will give me 9.5. Then I will add back these 1/2 inches, which I will minus after cutting here. I'll have 10 inches plus 3 inches sewing allowance. That will give me 13 inches. Then the waist is 34 divided by 4 will give me 8.5, plus these 2 inches, which I'm going to cut out here. I'll plus it, giving me 10.5 plus 3 inches sewing allowance. That will give me 13.5. So I'll connect the line. So after marking the lines, the next thing I have to do now is to extend the neckline. It's on a sweetheart line, so it is on a sweetheart neck. So I'll come down by 1 inch from the chest line, and I'll carve my sweetheart. I'm carving with a free hand. I'm carving down the neck, which is a sweetheart neck. So after that, the next thing I have to do now is to insert the neckline, which is 3 inches. The length will be 3 inches, while the width will be 4 inches. So to carve this neckline, I'm supposed to carve it here like this, but looking at the neck I have there is different from what I marked here. So I will not be making use of this neck. I just marked this neck for illustration. I will not be making use of this neck. So if I am to cut this out, I'll be cutting it directly from this shoulder line. I won't be making use of this neckline. So the next thing now to follow is to cut it out. I'm done marking it. I'll be cutting with the back armhole first. Then I'll use it to trace out the back. After tracing out the back, I will now cut the front armhole. So I've cut it out. I'll trace out the back, adding my zipper allowance. So after cutting out the back hole with the zipper allowance, the next thing I have to do, I'll keep the back one aside and cut out the front one first before cutting out the back hole. So now to cut out the front, I'll cut out the yoke first. Then I'll cut the front armhole. So this is what I have for the front. Now I'll show you how to carve the neckline, but before that, let's mark out the back. So to cut out the back, all I have to do now is to mark a line where I want my yoke, because the back will have yoke as well, where I want the yoke to stop. So I want the yoke to get at 9 inches for the yoke. So I'll just rule a straight line. So after marking a straight line, I'll come up by from the line here, I'll come up by 1 inch, 1.5 inch, sorry. So from there, I'll make a curve down to the 9 inches. I'll just slant it down to the 9 inches. This is how I want the yoke to be. Then, to mark the neckline, I'll use neckline of 2.5 over 4. 2.5 by 4. So I'll connect the neckline. Sorry, I forgot I added zipper allowance. So the zipper allowance I added was 1 inch. So I will extend it back to the 5 and carve it back. So I'll be cutting out the back now. So for the yoke, this is what I have for the back. I'll trace it out on the main fabric. So guys, to cut the neckline, which is the main purpose of this video, to cut the neckline, I place the pattern paper which I cut out before, original as in the first neckline which I cut out, together with this, which I cut out with this. So I want to use it now to extend the sleeve. Looking at what I have on that picture, you see that the sleeve was extended. So now I will follow this slant line and get it to this point. I hope you see the line. So the next thing now is I will mark the length of the sleeve which I want. So I'll be making use of only 3 inches. 3 inches will be okay by me. So from that 3 inches, I'll connect it back to, I'll connect it back to this area. That 3 inches. So this will be for the sleeve. Then the next thing now is to the neckline. So I'll cut it out from here. After cutting it, I'll now open this paper and show you how to carve the neck. So guys, I've cut it out as you can see now. So the next thing I have to do, I will open it. So I've opened it. This is what I have, and this is the center. So I will rule a straight line from the center. After ruling a straight line from the center, the next thing I have to do now is to measure the neckline. So the neckline from here will be 3.5 inches. Then I'll also measure from right and from left, 3.5 inches. Then the length will be 4 inches. So I'll connect this neckline now. It is a round neckline. Then after this, I will now get what I want. So after that, I'll now, from this center line, I'll mark 2 inches. This is the 2 inches. So from this line here, I'll connect it down to this 2 inches that I have here. You are seeing the line. I'm connecting it back to the 2 inches. Then from here, I'll connect this line back to this place, giving me the neckline which I want. So guys, this will serve as my neckline. So I will be cutting it out for you to see. So guys, this is what I have for the neckline and for the yoke as well. So now this is how it's, though I'm only using once, I use only one pepper to cut this side. So this is how it will be after joining it. Here is the neckline. This is the yoke with the sleeve. It's a together yoke with sleeve.